Welcome to the Catapult Effect podcast. I'm Katie Wrigley, neuroscience coach and entrepreneur. This podcast is for high-performing leaders who look capable on the outside, but know the pressure of carrying too much alone. Each week, we explore the internal and external systems that create real ease, from nervous system regulation to delegation and smarter support. If you're ready to build in a way that feels steady and sustainable, you're in the right place. I think anybody listening, like you've already heard, like get more energy, you're defining where you end, where someone else begins, like all of these things. What are the importance of boundaries in a business sense as well to help make the life of the entrepreneur easier? Because we've done a fantastic
Yeah,
talk about the importance of
yeah.
personal boundaries, and we all know we need to have those. But sometimes in a business, that
Mhm,
codependency comes back in, especially for new business owners who are still
mhm,
growing their business. We have to
mhm,
please them. The customer's always
mhm.
right, and
Yeah,
we can lose track of boundaries.
yeah. So I have a lot to say about this
Good.
because one, I identify very strongly as an entrepreneur myself. Two, I do a lot of networking. So I, especially with women entrepreneurs, most of whom suck at boundaries. And three, I have privately coached quite a number of entrepreneurs. So I have a lot of experience around this. So boundaries as an entrepreneur include like people with poor boundaries in business often do things like this. They do not charge at least market rate for their
Mhm.
services. They allow scope creep. So a customer pays for a service and then they give them more and more and more and more and more and they become depleted. Think that they're the only ones that can do everything. So they don't delegate, they don't ask for help. They also neglect themselves and don't fill their cup and therefore have no overflow and are constantly bending over backwards and accommodating other people. So I want to give a case study. This is probably the first, I think this is the first entrepreneur that I ever coached. So she was a social media manager at the time. And the way she started in the social media world was she was a young person who worked in a restaurant who was going to school for graphic design. And so she was relatively social media savvy and the owners of the restaurant were not. So she started doing their social media. Then they opened another restaurant and she started doing the social media. So these were personal friends of hers that she did this as a favor and she charged them just basically pennies. And so then her business expanded from there. And it was so overwhelming to her that she couldn't handle it. So
Mm.
I was like, okay, like at minimum, you need to charge market rate. And she's like, they're not going to pay it. I'm like, then you let them go. She's like, I can't, I can't, I can't. So what we did was we built a 3-tiered system for her where she had packages that people could pay for package A, B, or C. And then if they wanted to pay for a la carte services, they could, but it was a premium. And so she was like, I can't give this to these people. Like she just didn't have it within her to go to these people and say, this is what's going on. So I said, all right, fine, just keep them where they're at, but now start offering these packages to new clients. So she starts getting new clients who oh, by the way, she got a separate phone that was just for her business that she only used during business hours.
Nice.
And she taught her new clients, this is how you communicate with me. This is the scope of the work. If it goes beyond that, then you will pay the a la carte rate for my services. You get package A, B, or C. People were like, absolutely. They paid it. They started communicating with her. They didn't expect her to manage she created the content and posted it. They did the responding. Whereas at the restaurant, she was 100%. The people at the restaurants didn't know anything. So she started building up clientele and she got to see the difference between these new clients where she had boundaries around the scope of work, the type of products, the way they communicated, how much she charged. And in comparison and contrast to the ongoing clients. And she was like, oh no, like I cannot continue doing this. So she gave them 2 months notice that in 2 months, these are the packages.
Mhm.
And they were like, we can't pay that. And she was like, well, then you have to find someone else. And both of the restaurants ended up stopping doing social media entirely. And she could live with it because she basically built herself a ramp up to working onto that by showing herself, oh, I actually can have boundaries, and thrive in my business.
Yeah.
So that's a really specific example of what it can look like to go from no boundaries to, having healthy boundaries. So do you want to ask some questions about that before I?
Yeah, I'm like already in my head, like, we're going to make this a 3-part episode because what you're talking about is so important. So we're just going to keep
Mhm.
going.
Okay.
Because it's like, ooh, this is so good. So, like,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
specifics that you brought in, so
Mhm.
many people, the way that they see that is like, oh, they can't afford it and I want to help them. Like, what
Mhm.
is happening with that person who's, because I
Right.
see it all the time and it's like, please stop doing that. And one of the things that's helped me, kind of a side note before you answer that, is like, I do actually have a guarantee in the work that I do. And usually we can do that work in 4 sessions, but I am crystal clear on where the beginning state is
Mhm.
and to measure, did we move the needle? Because the guarantee is if we
Mhm.
didn't move the needle, we keep going until we did. And that doesn't mean that
Mm.
we get you all the way to the goal. But if you have not
Mhm.
made any progress, there's
Mhm.
something more important in your nervous system that we just need more time to get into. And so
Mhm.
I will happily and with full
Mhm.
energy give that time. Like, I
Right.
actually had a session earlier with someone that I was like, something's telling me we need a 5th session. And he was a little upset. And I said, look, like, the nervous system just needs time. Like, yours, like, we unpacked something big in the last session. And we also unpacked something even bigger today that was this huge pattern that he had never seen that was really impacting him. And it's like, look, like, this is why I do things the way I do. And we went back into his initial form, capture his words. He's like, ooh, because he's
Mhm.
like, and he initially said, I want to work on this thing that I hired you for. And I'm like, well, let's go back to the form. Let's read your exact words. He's like, oh, actually, that second thing feels more important. And I think they're linked. I'm like, yep. So
Mhm.
you're one person, one nervous system. It's 100%.
Mhm.
So I have that clear boundary and I
Mhm.
give freely because I have
With
that
yeah.
very clearly defined for both of us
Right.
as
Right.
well. With
Right.
the going back to that question is what is going on? What's really going on with that person who's telling themselves that I am being at service to offer my services at less than market value, at less than what I'm worth is really what you're doing in order to
Mhm.
help someone else. Like, what is
Mhm.
that driver in there, Barb?
Yeah, so they're prioritizing other people's well-being over their own because they think that's what they need to do to be safe.
Mhm.
Because they grew up understanding, I need the people around me to be okay. I especially need them to be okay with me for me to be safe. And so I liked what you said. Like, you decided the boundary is except under these circumstances, then it's this. You decided ahead of time. What I'm talking about entrepreneurs is who on the fly just always be like, okay, yes, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And I think that we have to address there's a certain level of worthiness that they don't have. And I think that comes from constantly focusing outside yourself.
Yeah.
You're not paying attention at all to you and what you want, like, need, prefer, what's okay and not okay, because you grew up not feeling safe doing that. So you still think as an adult, I need my safety to be, and my safety comes from the external world, and your
Yes.
safety actually comes from the internal world. You get to decide. And the other thing, there was something you said in there, I don't remember what it was, but it made me think of, it was the way you asked the question, that they'll work with anybody and they'll do whatever price because they feel like they have to. And maybe in the beginning you have to be a little bit more accommodating than as because you need some feedback.
Right.
You need to do some work and get feedback. But creating a niche is probably the most important thing you can do as a business
Yep.
owner. That is an extreme boundary. It is
Mhm.
saying, I work with these people. It doesn't mean, like, my niche is professional women who say yes when they really want to say no and who neglect themselves because they're so focused on others.
Very clear.
Do I work with people who are not professional? Yes. I really don't work with men. I would, but because I cater to professional women who say yes and who neglect themselves, I have certain messaging that those women absolutely hear me, see me, believe that I can help them. But there are other people who also do too. So when we get our messaging really tight, that's a boundary that we have. And that's probably the most important
Oh,
boundary. And
yeah.
so many people are afraid, of if I only speak to them, but I could serve everybody. Yes, you could, but when you serve everybody, you serve nobody. I'm sure you've heard that
Oh,
before,
yes. Lived
right?
it. Lived it in my
Right,
early years too.
exactly.
Yep.
Me too. Same, 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 same. Like, I wasn't a boundaries coach in the beginning. I was a coach, right? And it was like, oh, I had to hone in. And then I realized like I worked at Yale University for 19 years. I'm a professional woman. So it makes sense for me because I saw the impact on my professional life, the ripple effect of me building boundaries in my workplace, on my team, on my organization when it was just me building boundaries. So I know the impact that boundaries can have on professional women, on top of the fact that I'm a sociologist by training. I came out of grad school wanting to level the playing field, especially in regard to race, class, gender, and sexual orientation. And so I want women to move up into the power structures of society, and they're not going to do it when they're neglecting themselves and saying yes
Yep.
to other people all the time. So
Yes.
I feel like my two missions of like carrying the message of recovery to those who still suffer, specifically about boundaries and wanting to level the playing field, have come together in my business now that I've honed in on professional women.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, and it makes so much sense there, and
Well, and time is actually one of my most important boundaries.
yes, yes,
Mhm,
100%. Mine too.
mhm,
Like, I'm very,
mhm,
very structured with my time. I need that
mhm, mhm,
structure to have that
mhm,
creative freedom in there. And I
mhm,
really love how you brought that niche up there because there can be a lot of resistance to it. And like I had a one-on-one call with one of my business coaches last week actually, and really honing in. And my ideal client is a high performing woman who's done the coaching, done the therapy, and still has this low hum of stress. And she's
mhm,
also aware that the nervous system is the next place she wants to focus.
mhm,
But if you look out there, there's all sorts of stuff like, and like nervous system regulation, no one gives a shit. They give a shit about sleeping well, about enjoying their vacation. So being
mhm,
able to
mhm,
talk about it. But the people who come into me, they've all like, ooh, you do nervous system work? That's the next thing for me. Tell me more.
mhm,
And I was like, "It feels limiting." He's like, "You can literally never be too limited. Like, the
mhm,
more precise you get,
mhm,
like,
mhm,
the
mhm,
more
mhm,
people you're actually gonna reach." And it feels
mhm,
very
mhm.
counterintuitive to someone
Yeah.
who's new to boundaries, who doesn't have boundaries, to
Mm,
have that. And I also wanna
mhm,
say one of the things that I found that's been really freeing since I got better in boundaries is every once in a while, and I never understand why, but there's always something incredible that comes out of it. But every once in a while, it's like, I wanna gift you a session. Like, and again,
mhm,
it's not a frequent thing, but every
mhm.
time I've done that, like, the coolest shit has come out of that gift, not just for that
Yeah.
person, but something really
Mhm,
cool has come for me too. And
mhm,
so I've
mhm,
learned to listen to that. But before I had boundaries, that would feel like I'm undervaluing myself. And then I feel like crap
mhm,
because now, and then I'm not going to do as
mhm,
good of a job because I
mhm,
haven't included myself in what I need in this offer. Whereas when
mhm,
I'm crystal clear and I make it from a place of integrity and intuition and whatever's calling me, like, I
mhm.
feel good to make that offer. And it
Yeah.
makes me even excited to go do the
Yeah.
session later because it's just like, what kind of
Mhm.
magic's gonna come out of this?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're making a choice, whereas before you had boundaries, it was a compulsion.
Yes.
Like, I have to overgive to be worthy.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that was like almost
Mhm.
verbatim. The pattern that
Yeah.
was running is like I wasn't enough
Mhm.
unless I was helping someone else. And the other thing is some of the resistance I used to tell myself, like it even in the business sense, is I'm not going to be as helpful if I have boundaries. And for people who are really heart led, who really are motivated and driven by enhancing the lives of others, like that can be a big hurdle to creating those
Mhm.
boundaries. And I'm curious,
Mhm.
like, what would you say for the person that's thinking that of like, if I create these
Mhm.
boundaries, I'm not going to be able to help as many people as I want to help.
Mm. So, yeah, disagree entirely based on my experience, but before I had healthy boundaries, I would not have disagreed.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have agreed that they were right. And I think so there's a concept discipline equals freedom. And if you think about when people are raising children, I think most people understand children thrive in structure.
Hmm.
They need to have some level of predictability. Basically, they need to know the adults around me are people I can depend on and that make me feel safe.
Yes.
And so it's like you don't. put them in a cage, but you give them some limits and
Right.
then you let them have freedom within those limits
Mhm.
because they feel safe. And so, what I've learned is for me, discipline equals freedoms. I'm going to use, since we alluded to time boundaries, I'm going to use those for example. I used to be highly unstructured and I just lived by whatever. The only clue I ever had before I had boundaries that structure, that I thrive in structure, was when I would go on vacation. At the end of my vacation, I would be looking forward to getting back to work, but it wasn't getting back to work. It was the structure of the Monday through Friday life where I have to be somewhere every day at these times. And I look back now, I'm like, oh, that was the indicator that it was structure
Yeah.
that I craved. And so some of, like, I work for myself now. So I structure my time in multiple ways. So I block time on my calendar. I write my newsletter at this time. I have what I call my elder counsel, which is where I tap into my future wiser self
Nice.
and think about, like, what do I need to do this week? I have yoga time at noon on Mondays with my sweetheart. I have a block of time noon every day of the week for lunch, which I didn't used to do. I used to just cram it in there. And I'm in recovery from compulsive overeating. I have a food plan. My food is very structured, and yet I wasn't scheduling time for lunch. I was just fitting it in. I have time when I work on my podcast, when I pitch for speaking gigs, when I pitch for podcasts, all this kind of stuff, because I need to move multiple things in my business forward on a regular basis. And I mostly stick to it. Sometimes I don't, but it means that when I'm working on my newsletter, I'm a recovering multitasker. So, what used to happen, Katie, is that I would think of something and I would go off and I would go down 15 different rabbit holes.
Mhm.
And when I worked at Yale, I had a dinger on every time an email came in, and I was running programs sometimes in up to 25 schools at a time. So I had a lot of people communicating with me. And I got a reputation of being very responsive, which yay for them, but it was hard for me to follow through on anything of mine, especially if it was large, because I was constantly being interrupted
Yep.
and bringing my attention elsewhere. So when I started doing the time blocking, I married it with the Pomodoro
Oh,
technique,
I love the
which is
Pomodoro.
where you work in a 25-minute segment and take a 5-minute break. And when I first started doing that, I was afraid, oh, I'm going to forget this thing that pops in my mind. So when I started doing it, I would write down whatever popped in my mind so that I could come back to it. And eventually, I just let those things that popped into my mind go because I had started putting them on my calendar and I was like, it'll either come back or it won't. And I gave myself permission in this 25-minute block of time. I get to focus on one thing, which means I get into flow, which is the best state from which to create. And 25 minutes is a long enough period of time that you can actually get into flow. And then when it came to the 5-minute breaks, I was like, oh, I don't want to take a break because I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get back into flow. Not true,
Yeah.
because your body needs a break and your brain needs a break. And then, speaking of your body needing a break, I heard a fitness instructor say one time, sitting is the new smoking. So get off your ass. I know, multiple times a day. So when my timer goes off, at minimum, I go up and down the stairs once. I usually, like, I don't always take the full 5 minutes, but I also sometimes don't keep it to 5 minutes. But the things that I used to get sucked into in the past, like, doing chores, I have a ringer go off, be like, okay, chore time is done. Come back now from your 5-minute break. And it's really changed me. I think that I don't have ADD or ADHD, but I do think that because of the multitasking, I had attention problems.
Mhm.
And I don't anymore. I can concentrate. And when I come back to things, my mind and body are fresh and it's easy for me to dive right back into them. So, those are examples of how I have used, and there's more. I have way more time boundaries, like actually another one that's been one of the best interventions I have ever done in my life, which is turn the ringer off on my phone. I get to decide whether, and people almost never call me anymore. They know to text me, right?
Yep.
I get to decide. You're not bothering me when you send me a text message. That's what I used to think.
Yep.
They keep interrupting me. I was interrupting me by leaving the damn ringer on. And I also only allow maybe a half a dozen apps to give me notifications on my phone. I don't need to know that something happened on the internet.
Yep.
I don't need that. I can go and choose to look at that app when I have the availability. So I've decided how I'm going to live my life based on what matters to me. So I'm living on purpose. I'm living in alignment with my values. I'm in integrity with myself. And at this point, I've literally lost why I'm telling you all this. I don't even remember what the prompting question
We're
was.
talking
So,
about time boundaries. I don't even remember it either. I'm just
yeah.
totally
Okay, good. I don't
yeah.
feel so
No,
bad.
my ringer is never on. Like literally
Mm,
never. And the only people that can get through it are my parents because if they
yeah.
have an emergency, I have consciously
Mhm,
prioritized them.
mhm,
I'm out.
mhm.
Whatever's going on, they
Yeah.
need me, I'm gone. Like there's and I've let clients know like, hey,
Mhm,
I'm actually in a place where my parents need a little bit more support. I'm going to do my best
mhm,
to stick to the schedule,
mhm,
but there is a
mhm,
chance that I may have to
mhm,
reschedule something or
mhm,
something could come up. So I'm
mhm,
just and that's me being in integrity, not
mhm.
trying to hide it like, hey, like they are my priority. My mom has advanced dementia and so we don't
Mhm.
know what's going to be happening.
Right,
Like
yeah.
yesterday was a fantastic day. Don't know how today is, but
Mhm.
there's no emergency on there. But that was my thinking around there. But it's like, and I tell clients, like, text me anytime. I
Yeah.
have my phone in do
Same,
not
right.
disturb
I have
all the time.
boundaries. You don't need to worry about it. You're not bothering
Yeah.
me. This is a service that I offer
Yep.
specifically to my clients because I want to be there for you,
Yes. Yes.
right? Yeah.
And I even tell them, like, it is up to me to hold the boundary. Like, you
Mhm,
literally
mhm.
cannot come at me too much. I have this
Yes.
down.
Yep.
Like, you
Yes.
come out
Same.
and it takes a little while, but then once the floodgates open, it's like, yes, come on, give me more,
Yes.
give me
Yep.
more.
Yep.
This is
Yep.
good. This is
Yeah.
good. What else? What else?
Yes. Same.
And again, you've got more to give with. And thank you for going into the reminding me of the Pomodoro. And I got some
Mm,
work to do with my time boundaries. I'm still kind of eating
mm,
around, but I'm also really excited about
mhm,
stuff I'm doing right now. But that rest is so important. And I want to ask one last
mhm.
question before we wrap this 3 or 4 part, however many parts. This has been such an incredible
Okay.
conversation. I was excited to get into it. Now that I'm into it, I'm loving it even more.
Yeah. Good.
But you touched on this a little bit, but I just want to really directly address it because rest doesn't feel safe for a lot of people. And I,
Mhm.
even knowing that rest is important, that's what my
Mhm.
nervous system will still result where will
Mm,
go back to. And I felt so stuck on this problem that I was working through last week
mhm.
and I forced myself. Like that is the only word I can use. Is like, all right, like
Mhm.
I am not allowed to touch anything work related this weekend
Mhm.
at all
Mhm.
until
Mhm.
I work through
Mhm.
this issue.
Mhm.
And like and even
Yeah.
then, maybe not. And then I did decide I'm like, actually, it makes a lot more sense. I'm gonna have a more successful week if I take a half an hour to do this thing Sunday evening. But again, it was
Mhm.
conscious and I had already made that shift, but that shift came with the
Mhm.
rest with intentional silence, intentional movement, or
Mhm.
nature, hiking in, like instead of just walking my dog on
Mhm.
pavement, taking her into the woods. Like I've got no
Mhm.
excuse. Like the trails are right there. I literally walk by it, a
Mhm.
regular walk. And
Mhm.
everything shifted in that rest. But
Mhm.
what is the real
Mhm.
reason that rest feels
Yeah.
unsafe?
So this is the exact journey that I've been on the last couple of years. That even though I have reduced massively my overgiving patterns, I've had this very strong like productivity drive and compulsion. Like for me, feeling a sense of accomplishment is one of the most satisfying feelings.
Yes.
And I really internalized, like, I need to produce to be worthy.
Mhm.
And so I think for me personally, the reason that rest feels unsafe is thoughts and feelings come up that activate my nervous system when I'm at rest and I don't want to
Mm.
fucking deal with them.
Yeah.
And it's also this deeply internalized belief I need to produce to be worthy. So until the end of 2023, I would coach people 7 days a week. I coached on weekends. At the end of 2023, I was like, no more coaching on weekends. I, for years, did recorded my podcast on Sunday afternoons, which sometimes turned into 11:30 at night on Sunday nights. And finally, I think it was 2024, maybe it was 2025. I kept telling one of my coaches, I'm going to pull the podcast recording off of the weekend and put it into the week. And she was like, what are you waiting for? So now I record the podcast during the week. So weekends are actually weekends where I don't, and I make sure that I do something with a friend in person at least once every single weekend, usually more than once. And I put the lunches on my calendar. I literally laid down and watched the Hallmark Channel often during my lunch because I love it and it's happy. There's always going to be a kiss. There's always going to be a happy
Yep.
ending. Even though people break up all the time, nobody's keying anybody's car or stalking people and stuff like that. So I've slowly but surely taught my nervous system that it's safe to be at rest. And then the other thing that, like, I have a lot of deeply entrenched scarcity
Mm.
mentality. And I think now it was scarcity about a lot of things, but now it's really just about money. And I have done a lot of processing with ChatGPT in the last couple months. And one of the most important interventions that I learned when the thoughts come up, because for me, I have boundaries around my thinking.
Mhm.
I call them boundaries of self containment. They're internal boundaries. And so as soon as I realize that the thoughts are going, I get to stop them.
Mm.
So ChatGPT said that, so I take my elder future self, tells me this is your mind trying to prevent future harm. It is not a prediction of the future.
Yeah.
You are safe right now. Look around you. And this is where I got the naming things, touching things. I am literally safe right now in this moment. That I've been through things like this before, and it's never been worry that's gotten me through it. It's been presence, being in the present moment. When I first started saying that, which was only a few weeks ago, I said it, I mean, maybe 60 times a day. And now it might be once or twice a week, once or twice
Nice.
because I've really internalized it. So like for me, the reason rest feels unsafe is because of what comes up when we
Yep.
rest. It could be thoughts, I should be doing something else. It could be thoughts, catastrophes are going to happen. It could be feelings that we're not used to. Like I spent my life numbing, sucking my thumb, smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, drinking booze, being fixated on other people. And it wasn't until I stopped drinking abusively in my early 50s, though I did drink a tiny little bit. I didn't really get drunk after that, but I continued to smoke weed even into my recovery. So I think 2019. So it's literally been not even 7 years since this 63-year-old body stopped doing something to numb. So I would say 2.5, 3 years ago was when I started having these a few episodes where I literally had to lay myself on the floor and splay myself out as a way of, I guess, surrendering to the universe, like whatever's happening, just let it happen. And I would have these feelings in a way that I never had before, sometimes to the point of dry heaving. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I think it was that I didn't have like, I have like this buildup of feelings I've been suppressing my entire life.
Oh, yeah.
And the other shocking thing, Katie, is we're talking feelings going through me in approximately 7 to 15 seconds. I'm not talking hours of feelings. I'm like, this is what I've been resisting my entire life. No, don't get me wrong. It sucked, but it only sucked for that long. Right. And so I've been bracing myself to avoid these feelings. And that years of bracing and avoiding the feelings has made things so much worse. And now
Yes.
I mean, I think that happened once this year, and we're in May already. And it's like I numbed for so
Yep.
long that I've been afraid of the feelings. So I think it's really fear of the thoughts, fear
Yep.
of the feelings, fear of being inadequate that makes rest so threatening.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And would you say that the fear of and the resistance to what was under there was way worse than actually going through and allowing yourself?
Hell yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
False evidence appearing real.
Oh, yes, yes. Awesome. This has been such an
Yeah.
incredible conversation. Barb, where can
Yeah.
people find you so that they can reach out, connect
Yeah.
with you? If anything that
Yeah.
Barb has said has resonated with
Yeah.
you, I encourage you to reach out. We'll make sure all the links that she's about to mention are in the show notes.
Sure. So, since you're already listening to a podcast, you can hop on over to mine. It's called Fragmented to Whole Life Lessons from 12 Step Recovery. The only place I really hang out on social media now is on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I do have content from the past on Facebook and Instagram, but LinkedIn is where I'm current. I'm at Barb Nangle. And then my website is higherpowercc.com. That stands for Higher Power Coaching and Consulting.
Nice.
I have tons of free content. I have low cost, moderate cost, and high cost deep, intense work offers. I have stuff on romantic boundaries, workplace boundaries, family boundaries, personal boundaries, you name it, internal boundaries, all that kind of stuff. And actually, what I'm really excited about is I am in the middle of recording a course on internal safety, and it's called Boundaries That Hold. It's not ready just yet, but it will be soon. So come back.
Love that. Thank you so much. And you're going to be my new referral source when I see someone that needs help with boundaries.
Oh,
I'm going to
goody.
send you over to Barb Nangle. She is the
Excellent.
boundaries boss.
Excellent.
Check her out. So thank you so much. Is there any last thought you want to leave the listener with before we wrap, Barb?
Yeah. It's not selfish to take care of
Yes.
yourself. It's self-preservation. It's required.
Yes. Thank you for reiterating that. And thank you so much for
Yeah.
your time today.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, this has been awesome. And thank you to the listener out there for being with us through this episode. This is one of actually the longest one this season. I love it. And as you've
Excellent.
noticed, it's been divided into bite-sized pieces so that you can incorporate this into your life. So thank you for being with Barb and I today. And until next episode, please be well. Thanks for being here on the Catapult Effect podcast. If today's episode supported you, share it with another leader who's ready to create more ease in how they build, and leave a review so more heart-led leaders can find these conversations. You don't have to do everything yourself. When the right systems are in place, inside and out, business gets lighter. Until next time, protect your capacity.